Okay, all right. This is my third take for today. I'm noticing a shift in my consciousness over how I'm intending on using this medium here, this form of video log. And I'm feeling myself kind of caught between that, do this raw description of what's going on and what's happening and just roll with it, uncut and just do it. Do I make trims and all that and tighten it up? Do I make them short? Do I make them long? Do I think about that? And all that stuff has been coming up. Um, and trying to find that balance between what's organic for me and what hopefully other people will be interested in, which I have no idea. So once I get everything up and running, we'll see, you know, and it'll probably be fine-tuned as we go. So, but right now I'm trying to get a feel of it. I'm trying to do this as a daily practice too for myself. As a stutterer, as I've talked about a couple times already, it's hard for me to talk. And I went into film and art and all that because I couldn't talk. So it was my way of talking. But now I am doing this practice to try to get more into a um, more balance, come back to finally getting into words, getting into talking, feeling more comfortable with it. Um, and so my primal wound of being a stutterer helped me to be an artist and to be a filmmaker and to take the path I've been on. And it feels like now it's like almost like it's time to kind of move on to the big league, move on to the big one, which is talking. So I'm going to be doing this for 45 days, no matter what, where this goes or whatever, because I'm reading this book, I think called The Happy Brain, um, and how 45 days of doing something repeatedly is what's minimum required for an adult to kind of rewire their brain. Not rewire, but in a way, from my understanding of it, is that as we do something new that we're not used to doing, we don't have a lot of neural pathways that are associated with it yet. There's a lot of things we've done in our past, especially our childhood, have like super highways. So it feels a lot of the things we think feel good because we like them actually could be some of them could be that they're just so comfortable because they're easy for us. The neural pathways are all built. And so when we're trying something new as an adult, especially after our 20s and 30s, it becomes much harder. And so the 45 days is what this guy says. We'll see. So I'm trying to do this, talking into the camera every day for 25 days, 45 days. Should I cut that out or not? I don't know. See, there we go. Um, that too. So basically, this is what I'm trying to do. So now that I'm thinking about it, it's probably best to keep them raw because this is also an exercise in how I'm talking, how I'm communicating, and see perhaps while we do these 45 days, see if I develop, if I become more fluent or more comfortable and comfortable with just talking, should be interesting to see. So in a way, part of this experiment, part of this, research is what I'm doing right now. So, well, that's my answer there. Well, there you go. So I just answered that question right out there. Beautiful, man. You saw a process. Very cool. Okay. Wow. I like that. Hey, I like that. I said it, the screen went into screensaver mode. Huh. Very cool. Very cool. Okay. So, all right. So now I'm thinking this was 5 minutes. Should I stop it or should I keep going? It's interesting how, as I'm doing this and I'm starting to think about it in different ways, how that's affecting the experience as I'm going along. So, this whole idea of at the start, it was just to get it out there. Uh, Now it's been 6 days, I think. This might be the sixth day. Now it's like, all right, I've done it. I popped my cherry here. And now, so now what? This is going to be shared. I'm imagining that I'm going to be creating a Patreon page. And for a certain level of support, you get this behind the scenes footage. That's, it's kind of this video log. Find out what this insane guy does every day. Pretty boring, though. If you call pondering the universe boring, then it's pretty boring. Exploring the further reaches of cinema, human nature, art, yeah, little stuff. Anyways, but that stuff excites me. It may not excite some people. That's cool. I don't know. Anyways, I regress or transgress or digress, or all three, maybe. Anyways, so I'm just going to ramble here and do this. And let's see. If I could cut this out, probably I'm going to cut that out. Maybe not. Shit. So, up till now, I've relied on cutting. Anytime I've done a talk on video and all that, I've cut it, or others have cut it to kind of smooth out my voice and to speed me up. I tend to have these long pauses, I'll ponder things and stuff like that. And I'm actually usually just a more mellow, slow person. So it's kind of like getting up to speed and being able to talk off the cuff and really clear and coherently and all that. I haven't really honed that kind of craft because of my whole history. So this should be interesting to see if I can hone some of this as I'm talking. I did take a high school speech class that was actually a speech film class that was the whole big discovery here of filmmaking. So anyways, let's get back to this. The idea is to post these onto Patreon for the level of people who want to get the behind the scenes look, as I said. And I'm also pondering, will I be doing more focused videos? Like, for example, today I was working on how would I answer the question that everybody's asking me all the time is, what makes a movie integral? So do I do that in a video essay? Do I do it here and just talk about it? Do I do it in a video essay? Do I do it on a podcast with one of my friends and stuff like that? Do I write a paper on it? What form does it want to be in? I usually go through that too. Of course, I've added this form now too. So this morning though, I was laying out and breaking down how to communicate this to others, and trying to do it in not so academic, hardcore language kind of way, which I am guilty of often. So I went through, many years for my PhD in psychology and transpersonal psychology. And at the end, I kind of developed this academic, intellectual style, that I never really had going to film school and stuff. So I'm trying to wean off that a little bit too, or actually discern, being able to shift between it. But there's like some things that it's like, I don't know how else to say it, like, all right, what do I look for in a film, and I have 7 kind of basic kind of things to say overall what I look for in a film to be integral and what appears to be these patterns here. But they, I'll like, for example, one of them, the first one is the exploration and integration of multiple evolving dimensions and perspectives of lesser and greater depth and span. Now, of course, that's totally insane sentence, but it says it all. So now I'm looking at that sentence going, I got to unpack that and make it much simpler than that. That's like wacko. But how do I do it? Because that's become how I naturally talk now, or naturally think, But interesting, as I was doing that, it suddenly hit me, I could start with, there are 2 main general things that are common to the integral structure of consciousness that are therefore should be common to an integrally structured film or integral film or integrally informed film. These 2 things are evolution and integration. Now, we go back to Gebser. Jean Gebser was I believe, sociologist or anthropologist. I don't remember now. Anyways, he talked about that the reason why this stage is called integral is because we reach a point of, we yearn, our mind, our being kind of starts yearning for integration. We'll look at something and we'll try to get as much information from different angles and different perspectives as possible so we can get a big picture and integrate everything and happening so we have that big picture. It's not just a big picture that we see everything go, oh, well, okay, there's a big thing with all that stuff in it. It's a big picture that integrates what's happening into a pattern we understand. So it's like this map. We kind of attempt to map things and map a territory and then try to see bigger picture patterns. And part of that mapping is to kind of what we tend to do according to Gebser, and this is, I think, you can see this in other integral thinkers' writings too, so I think it's a pretty general thing to say that as part of this integration, the integral structure of consciousness attempts to concretize that which is abstract. So what is concrete? Like, for example, this is concrete. Okay. Even what you're seeing now, that's concrete. I have a body. It's, the objective world is the concrete. The interobjective world is concrete too. The systems, the electrical system, the atmosphere, all of these things that are systemic, they are also concrete. We understand them, we can see them or observe them. Like the wind, we can't literally see it, but we can detect it, its effects, all that. So the concrete is easy, we can see it, but we can't see the subjective inner experiences of sentient beings, and we can't see time. I mean, time is a very abstract thing. Of course, we created it, but it's still abstract. So what the integral structure of consciousness does in an integral artist or an integral theorist or an integral everyday person is they attempt to concretize the abstract, and so then everything is concrete for them. And then they could see the map. So if you can't concretize the abstract, you can't get a full picture. So And that's kind of the second, number two actually, is the concretion of abstract and interior dimensions and perspectives, such as time and interiority, or that subjective experience. But that in the service of evolutionary growth and development. So all through my seven, which I'll be talking about as we go through, are connected to this evolutionary thing too. So part of the big picture that we attempt to integrate at Integral is time, not just time like my past, present, future, but time, like the evolution of ourselves, the evolution of our society, the evolution of the human species, the evolution of the universe. All of that needs to be on the table. All of that needs to be concretized in our analysis or our perceptual field, so we can have it part of the big picture. So that's so those two things, integration and the evolutionary awareness, is what it is, evolutionary awareness, are like the two major kind of undercurrents of all the criteria and all the testing. It's, for example, number three is the integration of the masculine and feminine through a synthesis and balancing of the forces of agency and communion in the service of evolutionary growth and development. So, once again, in the service of evolutionary growth and development. Now here, we're looking at the masculine and feminine as agency and communion representative. For example, we all know that action, there's action, there's character-driven stories and action-driven stories. Action-driven story is agency, character-driven is communion, okay? And integral films will tend to integrate those into a synthesis and balance, so that there's action, and it's both character and action driven, and they're not actually separate, they're intertwined. So as the action is happening, the characters are driving the action, and the action is driving the characters, which is more closer to real life. See how the bigger picture, the integration is kind of coming in here. So there's integration and evolution in that one too. So you see and I might as well say number four is an evolutionary story, event, and or character progression that is given greater than or equal emphasis to conflict resolution, with progression developing vertically through at least three stages or levels of development. Once again, there goes my wacko academics kind of thing. But if we unpack that, it's like, here's the story, the characters, okay? They have a progression, the story progresses and the characters progress in an evolutionary manner. They evolve vertically, which means they just don't heal a wound or something like that, but they actually evolve to a different way of being. Someone will evolve from egocentric to ethnocentric, one who's like me-centered to us-centered. That's a vertical shift. A horizontal shift is somebody's already at the us level, but they've been wounded, and so they are afraid, and so they are hiding, and so they have to heal that wound in order to be able to relate again. You see how that is just healing at one level. So that's horizontal. So you have that as part of this progression and this evolutionary thing, and we say at least three stages, because in film, 3 is the magic number for a pattern. Once, if we see something once, we the viewer say it's unique. There's no evidence for a pattern. Number 2, if we see it a second time, we say this may be a pattern. But there's no solid evidence that it is a pattern. It could be just coincidence. The third time is a definite pattern. We can say, we just somehow naturally this happens for us. Something repeats the third time, it's a pattern. Our brain just does that. Then, if you do it 4 times, it feels repetitive unless you're doing an integral story that takes a character through the full spectrum of evolution. Once you start with an evolutionary arc, the pattern, the past 3 pattern doesn't hold up because the audience starts to sense that the progression is part of what the story is about. So you have Groundhog Day, for example, who goes through more than 3 stages. We pretty soon we understand that that's what's going on here, and he's going to evolve, and we want him to evolve to a point where he can love, when he can, and he goes on way past that. But we go with it because it's part of the goal of the story is this evolutionary progression. And let me make sure I'm getting everything here. So once again, this is all part of an evolutionary pattern that tends to be there. And classic stories really kind of have an emphasis on conflict resolution. For example, a horizontal development is great for conflict resolution. This person who's been wounded, he can't love or she can't love, but there's somebody, it's blocking his way, and so that's the conflict, and the goal is to resolve that conflict through their healing. So that's the classic story structure, not just in film, but in theater and in literature and all that. But in integrally informed work, the evolution of story and or character, the evolutionary arc is equal to or greater than conflict resolution. What you mostly see is that conflict resolution is kind of in service of the bigger evolutionary picture. So both the conflict and its resolution are actually subservient to the evolutionary arc. Yeah. So, for example, let's go back to Groundhog Day. There's lots of conflicts, that he's got to resolve and all that, and inner conflicts and outer conflicts and all that. And the biggest conflict resolution in the film is how does he get out of this temporal loop? And he doesn't know. So that's but there's the beauty of it, is because he's stuck in this temporal loop, it's forcing him to evolve. It's giving him the time to evolve. So the actual conflict is the mechanism for the evolutionary growth. And the completion of that evolutionary growth becomes the conflict resolution. Beautiful. So you see how that is integrated. Once again, integration. My screen went into screensaver again. So now let's go to the number 5, which is another pattern we may see is the evolutionary impulse as a driving force or causality pattern. So, so there you go, the evolutionary impulse, which is we get a sense like there's a force or something that's, like, for example, in Groundhog Day, let's go back to that, we got a sense like something is doing this for a greater purpose. You get the feeling like this is all, we could call it God, we can call it, the collective mind, or what, however you want to hold it. It does not feel like this is random. This feels like, there is a driving force for evolutionary growth. And you could feel that in the film. That's the evolutionary impulse. in that is a driving force, is a causality pattern in the film. And there's many other films like that on our integral movie and TV list on the Internet Movie Database, which there's links somewhere on the Patreon site or underneath this video or whatever. Hopefully I'll remember that if this gets out there. All right, so number 6 is the valuing of truth that is qualified by evolving perspectival fields. All right, truth. All right, so every story has its truth pattern, you know. What's the truth? In an irrational film, like a detective film, it's evidence, you know. That's truth, is this objective truth. In integral, it's recognized that truth is qualified by the different stage of development. So you get a sense like each level of evolution has its own truth and its own value to it. And it's just that at different levels of development, truth is different. And it's not that it's false. It's just like in physics. There are Newtonian physics and quantum physics are like so different, and you would assume, you know, but one does not negate the other because they are reflecting different domains. So in the objective physical world, Newtonian physics still works fine. But when you get into the quantum level, it does not work at all. Doesn't mean it's wrong, doesn't mean it's false. It means it just doesn't work at this level. So we need a new set of rules at this level. There's a different truth at the quantum level. So that's what we're talking about here. Number 7 is a cosmocentric circle of care and concern that suggests an awareness, integration, and embracing of all of existence. Just looking at the time here, I don't know how long I'm getting. Oh, 27 minutes. Anyways, I go a little crazy on this stuff. So I have talked about the cosmocentric witness, and there's my bell, mindfulness bell. Okay. It'll be interesting. I'm going to look at this and see how I'm doing with this. And so this is, you know I have a feeling as I've said this, like I could do it better, you know. But this is practice. This is practice. Yeah. It's good. So also today I've been running a test on a TV series on Netflix called The Travelers. So I'm not doing that. Today I tried again to do everyday a sketch or a drawing. So I did that, and ate and did all the other stuff, and just meditated and did my daily spiritual practice, which I've talked about a little bit, and I'll talk about some more. But the screensaver, 3rd time, that's it. That's the curtain call. Until we meet again. Peace out.